Okay, you can see I have the main rectangle frame built. So now I can place the Hey, it's Jason. I am up here in my office. So I'm at my house. My office is above my garage. The garage is detached from the house, and I have this section of my office where I've never really done much with. I just have this whiteboard I typically put here. But since it's slope ceilings, you know, you can't really do too much. But I've really gotten a little intrigued by these old Lionel three-rail tubular track trains, O-gauge. So I've been, I bought a few old things. We have a track set up in my son's room. Kind of a pain with it being on the ground when he vacuums or when he plays. So I went on YouTube, of course, and I saw some absolutely magnificent train tables that were 8 foot by 4 foot. And I said, I could put an 8 foot by 4 foot here. It would basically come out all the way to here. And then it would take up a better part of this section. I can push the whiteboard back and I'm good to go. If for whatever reason we don't want it anymore, though we're going to do a pretty intricate design, which you'll learn about as we do it, I could take it off and just have a working bench style table, which isn't bad. Because I do admittedly have a lot of junk in my office. Stuff I collect, stuff that goes to the building, research, and of course it's my office where I do my daytime job, pretty much sitting right there. So what I want to show you today is how I'm going to build a very simplistic and affordable, using actual wood, 8x4 train table. I'm only going to have mine go about 3 feet because I want space under the sloped ceiling. So what am I concerned about? One, I got to get the plywood up the steps through this door, and it's 8 feet long. I believe if I cut it in this way, I can bring it through. I'm assuming it will fit because I really don't want to cut it. Once I had the plywood up here, I'm going to build the actual support top, like the mechanism that the plywood will sit on, and then I'm going to put legs on it. So let's go ahead and talk about the supplies I'm going to use. So far at Lowe's, I spent $132, I believe it was. That was 2 packs of really good screws. That was the plywood, which was $54, which is super expensive, but I wanted a really nice smooth plywood. And then the 2x4x8s, I bought 10 of them. I don't think I need 10, but I can always take one back. And then I had like $10 worth of stuff that actually wasn't related to this project. So probably $140 to build it. Let's go look at the supplies in the truck. So this is the area where I'm going to come up before we go down. This is like the antique corner, everything I'm selling on eBay and things I've collected. Some of this is my own personal collection before it goes to the building. But my office is like Jason and Jack's antique stuff, my seating area, my old video games, my workstation, and then it will be the train table. It's a little messy now because I moved a bunch of stuff out, but it's a pretty cool spot. And then these are the steps I'm gonna have to traverse to get the plywood up. And then this goes into our garage, of course. So the old Silverado, once again, is my savior. It is just so easy if you have a long bed. Everybody wants to buy this truck. I'm not selling it. The guy that just did some painting for me wanted to buy it as well. I'm going to sell him to Colorado, I think. So this is a really nice piece of lumber because it's smooth. It's 8 foot by 4 foot, $54 at Home Depot. This is maple, 1/2 inch maple hardwood, legitimate, not any of that junk. I can't believe it was so expensive, but that's the cost of wood now. So if you think about 8x4, most houses without higher ceilings are 8 foot tall. So this is going to give us a ton of space, and it's a practical size because I don't have to cut it. The 2x4x8s, I don't have to cut. I'm only going to have to cut the cross supports. So it's an easy entry-level train table to build. And since my house doesn't have a basement, it's just the 2-level contemporary home, I don't have, some area where I could put some huge train table. And, if I really like this and my son likes it, we'll probably take this table to the building and expand it, because we have, almost limitless space at the building. But for now, this is going to do a really good job for us. And I'm going to put the train just in oval. I'm not going to do anything complex. I'm going to put a really cool ballast down. A ballast is the rock that will make it look natural. The rock is going to pretty much go to the side and then up over the track all the way around. And then I'll have designated areas. Like I'm going to have like a junkyard scene and other areas. So I'm going to keep this wood color and slowly build areas. I'll paint a section green perhaps, put some grass on it. And then eventually the whole inside would be a pretty intricate train layout design with the Lionel old gauge train going around it. And then I mentioned I bought 10 2x4x8s, which is kind of your typical lumber you would use if you were framing a house. These were $3 and some change each. This is what I'm going to use to build the actual table that the plywood is going to screw onto. Now, since I'm only doing about a 3-foot tall train table, I'm going to use some of these for the legs as well. I would say if you are using a bigger, higher train table, you probably don't want to use 2x4x8 spot for the leg, but just going up 3 feet, I'm pretty confident that will be okay. And I'm trying to keep it as small of a footprint as a, 8x4 train table can be. And I didn't want to get 4-inch diameter legs because I thought that would be a little bit bulky under the table. And I think it would be overkill for the size that I'm going. So objective number 1, take the wood upstairs. Objective number 2 is going to be to take the wood, 2 of these upstairs. Then I'm going to cut, 2 of them in half basically to start taking the wood up to build the frame. And then we'll get up there and we will start to build the frame. So let me attempt to get this wood up the steps and into the area. Stay tuned. Okay, so I have the 4x8 up here. This gives you a nice idea of the size and footprint it's going to take up. I don't think an inch bigger would have worked up here. It takes up about every square inch I have. These lights, I'm going to aim towards it to light it up. This will come down maybe 2 inches farther, maybe 3 inches farther, because I do have to make sure I can get back here and open up. Now this is a deep fire cabinet, so that could pose an issue. So I'll have to figure out what I do about that. This one is a shallower, but I got how many more inches there do I need to worry about? Roughly 10 inches. So I think I can gain a foot on this side if I need to. It's not the end of the world. I can move some things down a little bit. But I want to talk about how I'm going to build the table. So just imagine these 2 boards are going to be just like so. One in the front, then one in the back. Now I'm on the top. This is the top of my platform right now. And then once I have this one in the front, this one in the back, I will cut 4 feet to connect these. 4 feet to connect these. Drill through here. Screw will come out, connect to the other wood. Then I'm going to have 1, 2, and then probably 3 cross beams. So every, so many inches, there'll be a support going back. So I never have to worry about the plywood sagging. So the first boards I'm going to cut are the 2x4x8s that are going to connect these. So I'm going to need to do it 45 inches because it takes into account the width of 2x4x8s. So if I cut them 45 inches, I can lay it down just like that and tack it in. So I'm going to need 1, I'm going to put one there, 2. I'm going to put one roughly on this side here, all the way at the end. That's 3. And then I'm going to put one right about here. I will space it out, obviously, appropriately. So 4 of those. So it will be a nice solid box, which when it's flipped, the plywood will lay on top of. I'll fix the plywood with screws, and then I put my legs on. Okay, so I'm all set up to cut. I marked 45 inches. This would be my first one. And then this is going to be just over 45 inches because, as you know, it's an 8-foot board, so there's going to have to be another cut I'll have to do because I'm going to just have about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches in between. And I'm just using a typical scale saw, nothing fancy, to cut it with. Okay, so I cut one of the boards. These are my 2. I need to do this again, and then I'll have the insides that I can screw in. So let me get to cutting the other one. Okay, so I'm ready to start putting the cross supports in. You notice I'm using a 2.5-inch screw. I really like these. These are like premium exterior screws, but I like them even though it's an interior application because I've never had one get ground at the top. It uses that type of little hex type of head instead of like a flat head or a Phillips head. And the box of 90 of them comes with the bit. Usually on my screw gun, I would be using the thing that's the screw, like the sleeve, but I left that at the building, so I'm going to go without the sleeve and just put the bit in the chuck. And 2.5 inch, you see, will still give me a good 1/2 inch. And probably a little more because the screw will go in the wood a little bit into the support. So basically, what I'm going to do is just like that at the top and the bottom, and then do the same in the back. Then I'll do the end, and then I'll put the 2 in the middle. Okay, you can see I have the main rectangle frame built. So now I can place these in and screw them up. And that's all the support I'm going to have. And then I can put the legs on, flip the table, and then mount the top. I'm less than an hour into this project so far. This is why I think an 8x4 table is just great. No plywood cutting, minimal cutting. Okay, thumbs up, the base is done. This is almost how, like when you do framing of a house, you know, you frame and then kind of lift it up. So I just got to cut the legs, 4 30-inch legs. Bam, 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 bam. Flip it over, put the plywood down, and we have ourselves the beginning of a train table. Let's go cut those legs. Okay, as I measured, I did some more testing, and while I think 30 inches is okay, I have the ability to go 36 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and go 36 inches. It'll put a little bit higher on the back, but I'm going to do 36-inch legs because what I wanted to take into account, if I did 30 inches, the weight is going to push that carpet and carpet padding down a little bit. So it's not going to truly be 36 inches, but then 1/2 inch of the plywood You know, if I do it 36 and it pushes the carpet down an inch, that's 35, but the plywood is half an inch, that puts me close to 36. And I think 36 is a fair height and will give me a little bit more space underneath, which will work out well. Okay, so the 4 legs are ready. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 additional leg in the middle. So 2 at the ends and then 2 in the middle. So I'm going to cut 2 more 36-inch legs. Okay, so the 6 legs are cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now they can be mounted to the base. The table can be flipped over. Then the plywood can be added. My blade is a little dull. That's why I'm getting some of this at the end here. I'll just sand it off to make it clean though. So basically this is how the legs is going to look. I don't want them flat straight, you know, sticking out. I want the skinny end facing me. So I will put my legs like that. The only exception I'm going to make is here. I will have that leg going like that, just for a little more stability. And then this leg going like that. And that will be how I am going to put the legs on the train table. Again, I have 4 inches of width. I'll use a 2.5-inch screw. That will be plenty for me to secure it. 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom. Okay, the legs are on. I'm gonna get ready to flip it. Now, I'm not a carpenter. If you're a carpenter and you're watching this, you probably don't need my DIY tips. And I'm only saying that because there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I'm trying to do a simplistic, minimal cut, 8x4 train table, and I'm gonna have a black curtain over the front and storage underneath. So you're not gonna really see the legs or anything like that. So I only say that because sometimes you would want to do like a cross beam here. So if somebody hit the leg, they want to bust it off or something like that. I might put a support beam in the front. But for now, in my train office, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to flip the table over and mount the plywood now. Okay, the train table is done. I have it backed up all the way against this wall, which adds a good level of security. Before you put the plywood top on, it's going to seem like it's a little wobbly just because the legs have no support at the bottom. But once you put the top on and it really firms it up against the wall, there's absolutely no major issue. You really gotta push it. I actually laid on top of it as I was putting some of the screws in with absolutely no issues. There will be a black skirt that goes around the front, all storage underneath. But this train table project is done. I hope that you found some useful tips, and I hope that you can see how you can build a train table for less than $150. And if you have any tips or tricks, let me know. Again, I'm not a carpenter. I'm just a DIY guy, and I'm just trying to show how to do something easy with maybe, what, 1, 2, 3, 6, 8 total cuts is all I had to do for this project. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It means a lot to me. Have a great day. Stay tuned for the build of the train table next.